My guest today is Breese, who is a visionary, author, retreat facilitator, and founder of several organizations for transformation, awakening, and growth. She is a world changer in every sense of the word. She is committed to helping people heal their past, envision their future, and become the world changers they were destined to be. Welcome to my show, Christine.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to being with you.
I can't wait to talk more about you. Now, where are you calling in from right now?
I'm actually calling from Ecuador right now.
That is
I'm at
amazing.
Gaia Sagrada in Ecuador, the retreat center that I run.
That is fantastic. It's so funny. I've met so many amazing people like you who live all over the world, and so I just love technology in itself. That it really does, for better or for worse, it brings all of us together.
It does.
How
Thank
did you,
God.
yeah,
A lot smaller.
exactly. How did you even? Well, first off, how did you get to Ecuador? How'd your life path take you there?
Well, I always had this dream of opening a retreat center ever
Hmm.
since I was young,
Yeah.
and with no idea how that was going to happen. First, I started University of Metaphysical
Hmm.
Sciences, which is an online school where people can earn degrees in metaphysics or spiritual
Hmm.
counseling, and they could just take
Yeah.
courses one at a time if they want. They don't
Yeah.
have to earn the degree. But that school ended up helping me make enough money
Uh-huh.
to come to Ecuador. I thought about starting it in California, but retreat centers in California are a dime a dozen.
Exactly, they are. Yeah.
And we couldn't do the shamanic traditional
Yeah.
medicines here, like ayahuasca
Oh,
and some.
yeah. Would make sense. Yeah. Hmm.
Well, we couldn't do that in California, but we could
Yeah.
do it in Ecuador.
Yeah.
So I came to South America, and after about 6 trips and looking at a lot of different
Uh-huh.
properties, real estate agent finally knew exactly what we were looking for and said, Christina and Bruce, get on the plane. I found it. This is the one. I
That's
said, send
amazing.
me some pictures.
Yeah.
Sent me some pictures. And I said, okay, well, we'll fly there in 2 weeks. And then he said, it's not going to be here if you wait 2 weeks. He said, you got to put a down payment on it
Oh my
today
gosh.
if you
Wow.
want, because this is a hot property and there's just nothing like it that ever ends up on the market.
Hmm.
So I did something really out of character.
We've all been
And
there. I know where you're going with this.
the way it works is if you put money down on a property here in Ecuador, you don't get it back if you change your mind.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness.
There's no such thing as escrow. It's a promise to buy.
Oh goodness. Wow.
And so I meditated for 5 minutes and I just kept saying, do it, do it, do it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to send the money. And I was really scared after I did it because, like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah. Well, how did you battle that? Because the meditating real fast. You made the decision. How did you kind of reconcile your choice?
It just felt right.
Hmm.
It just, I mean, when I get a yes from spirit, I get a yes.
Yeah.
And I know it's a yes. And I don't, I've learned not to question it.
Uh huh.
I used to question it, and every time I question it, I get in trouble.
Yeah,
So,
I understand that. Yeah.
so now I follow those cues. I just
Yeah.
follow those cues, and it never puts me in there. I see how my heart feels about it.
Hmm.
You're trying to make a decision, see how your heart,
Yeah.
your if you're trying to make a decision, try to see how your heart feels
Yes.
about it
Yeah. Exactly.
because your heart always knows the right place to go, the right
Hmm.
decision, the right people to be with, the right situation to be, the right land to buy.
Yeah.
Walk into the future a little bit, and this is a method that I've used for making decisions for a long time, and it's the best decision making process I've ever
Hmm.
done. The logic, oh, the mind will always make the wrong decision.
Yes. Well, that's when you question, and when the more you question, then the more it creates more fear and uncertainty, and then you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't, and then it creates this war within yourself. But if we just
And I
simply
get
stop,
things.
yeah, exactly, this tornado, this tempest of uncertainty, it's like, oh my gosh, just stop.
Right.
What do you
Just
do? What do you
your heart
do at
feels.
what do you do at at the retreat center?
We have shamanic ceremonies,
Mm-hmm.
medicine ceremonies with
Mm-hmm.
ayahuasca and San Pedro. We work with the traditions
Uh-huh.
of Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm also a shaman. I've been blessed to carry the medicine by the elders. I did all
That's awesome.
the processes that are so. I'm one of the shamans here as well.
No, that's neat.
I'm the token white girl shaman.
That's hysterical.
All the others are Ecuadorian. All the others are doing.
Yeah.
I bring a little bit of the new agey
Yeah.
California um, kind
It's a
of touched
hodgepodge, yeah.
just one of the ceremonies. The rest are all in the traditional methods.
What
And
is
mine
the
follow the traditions as well, but
Sure, of course. Your
that's
own
the
flair to
structure.
it.
But I add a little bit of flair to it. And a little
I
bit.
love it. What is the whole point of a shamanic ceremony? Because some people may know what that is, some people may not. How does it help people?
Basically, it's like 20 years of psychotherapy in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I mean, people have tried everything. They've tried talk therapy, they've tried
Hmm.
coaching, they've tried self-help books, they've
Sure.
tried workshops, they've tried seminars, they've tried everything, they've tried courses, and then, but they're still not to the bottom of what the problem
Yeah.
is. And so this takes people straight to the master within them.
Mm,
The medicine really connects you with the gazillion-year-old
yeah.
eternal self that you are, that knows all the answers to your problems, that knows how to fix your problems, that knows how to change, knows what changes need to be made. And a lot of times, what the shamans say is that the ayahuasca shows you what needs to be changed, but the San Pedro gives you the power to make those changes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I feel that a retreat that's missing one or the other isn't complete because they both go hand in hand.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The ayahuasca is the feminine of the medicines, and the San Pedro is the masculine of the two medicines. And one without the other is like not having a balance
Yeah.
between the two poles that we all operate from.
Oh, that's really
So
interesting. Yeah, that's funny because I
I
know
always
about the
felt
shamanic
like,
medicine. I know about the shamanic medicine, but I didn't realize how those two both go hand in hand, which I think is quite fascinating.
yeah, I always felt like one without the other isn't a
Hmm.
balanced experience.
Yeah, and the
But that's okay. Uh, that's what we do here at the Gaia Sagrada, and it's people report just these really profound healings,
mm,
and a lot of people email and say there was life before Gaia Sagrada, and then there was life after, and that it really is a turning point for a lot of people. This is one of those life-changing.
wow.
This isn't just a bucket list thing to do,
Hmm.
and anybody who comes with a bucket list idea, that they're in for a big surprise.
Probably get a different response than what they were looking for. You are a big proponent of having people experience retreats. Specifically, you focus on individuals who don't have much income because sometimes they can be expensive. Tell me more about that.
Well, I offer free retreats for all.com. That's a number four. And I just feel like it's really important for those who at least make a little bit of money with the spiritual work that they're doing,
Sure.
that if they can give back to the people who can't afford what they
Yeah. Of
offer. For instance, we can't do the school for free. We can't do
course. It's a business.
the retreats for free because there's a lot of expenses involved. There's staff, there's rent,
Hmm.
there's bills, there's all this stuff. Um, but it's not too expensive to rent a hall as long as I'm willing to do it for free, or
Yeah.
anybody who's with me is willing to do it for free. To rent a hall or to rent a space, it's not really that much, and it gives people a chance to experience a
Hmm.
spiritual retreat who otherwise never could afford it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look at some of these big guys who give the retreats. I'm not going to mention any
Yeah. Of
names, but I
course.
hope I could shame some of them into doing free retreats because they don't even need to make money
Yeah.
anymore. They more money than they could spend in 10 lifetimes.
Sure. I
It's like,
understand.
come on,
Yeah.
help the people who don't have any money. This is an era that should not be about making money.
Hmm.
So,
Well, that's which
well,
I think is powerful because it in that website that you have, what it does is it just helps it unifies us all because sometimes, of course, we know
mhm,
people who make more money have some different opportunities than people who don't have as much money, and so with that, you're
yeah.
equalizing everybody to say we all have value, we all have worth, we all deserve to have a spiritual awakening of some sort.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I didn't think of it quite that way,
No.
like equalizing
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Thank you.
Because once again, that when we create that spiritual plane together, then we all ascend or we all rise together, which is a beautiful thing and the whole goal of life.
Well, that's the mistake that was made in Atlantis. That's why that didn't work, was because
Hmm.
only the elite were allowed to get the spiritual teachings. Only the rich were able to get the goodies.
Ah, okay. Well, yeah. So you don't have that once again that full balance of everything to be able to
Hmm.
have a society or have a world that continually grows and develop. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm. Tell me more about your. Tell me more about the metaphysical sciences. So a lot of times people have different perceptions of what that is. What does that specifically mean for you?
Well, the University of Metaphysical Sciences, what we do is we have courses on just about everything metaphysical.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who don't know, metaphysics is more of a melting pot
Yeah.
of many, many spiritual walks, many, many spiritual traditions. We'll have things from almost every religion
Mm-hmm.
interspersed through the course to help open up the student's mind to
Mm-hmm.
being receptive to everybody's spiritual path, because they're all valid.
Yeah, of course.
They're all valid. And one thing that I found that was in common between all religions was, number one, there's a belief in some kind of higher force of some
Mm-hmm.
sort, or
Mm-hmm.
some sort of all that is,
Yeah.
whatever you want to name it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, be a good person.
Yeah.
Be a good person. That's really at the core of every religion, just about.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, but you're right. I mean, religion, spirituality does believe in, like you said, something greater than oneself. And for some people who say, "Well, I don't have a spiritual understanding," but there's some people have the collective consciousness. Some people have Gaia. Some people have so many things. And so when you just believe in something, some people have family. The concept of a family itself can be a spiritual connection. So it
Right.
doesn't have to be so traditional of a certain religion per se, but when you say what's truly sacred to me, and when you think about that, that's how you can start to flesh out what is your spiritual understanding. And then that starts the journey to be able to, perhaps through these metaphysical aspects, to understand what makes sense for you.
hmm Well, and with metaphysics, meta means beyond, and
Hmm.
physics means physical.
Hmm.
And so beyond the physical is
Yeah.
really the definition of the word, coined by the Greeks, the Greek philosophers in the past. And the study of the beyond, there is a science to it. A lot of
Hmm.
people think, well, how can you mix science with that word? What's happening is science is discovering some of the things, improving some of the things now
Yeah.
that spiritual people have known for a long time.
Yeah, that's true, and that's what I love is, specifically about my show, is it really brings together one's spirit, mind, and body, and that can be from the sciences to one's spirituality to one's physical body, and all of that is linked together to create who we are. Now, I don't define who people are, but my job or my goal is to give people the moment to stop and say, perhaps there's something more. Perhaps what I've been doing doesn't serve me the way it did before. So what can I do? And that's when I have wonderful people like you and all these other people that have been on my show create that platform to say, well, let me try this. Let me try this. And that is the journey and the growth and the beauty of life, is we get to focus on what's healthy for us and expand and grow with that.
And that's what's fun too,
It
just
really
trying
is.
all different things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if somebody asks me, well, what path should I follow? I just say, try them all
Yeah,
and see
exactly.
what works for you.
Yeah. Hmm.
Don't limit yourself to even just one. Like, personally, I pull from all these different paths the the pieces that work for me.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, exactly, and that's the beauty of it, because when we discover what's healthy for us, and that's where we say this now makes sense for me, and so let me embrace that. Let me truly become who I was destined to be.
Right.
You were talking in the pre-call about a book you're writing and the difference when it comes to just how people are mentors and teachers. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's called Integrity Handbook for Spiritual Teachers, Leaders, and Healers, and students.
Hmm.
Because what's happening is there are so many spiritual teachers now.
Yeah.
Everybody and his brother is a spiritual teacher now, even if they're 15, with no
That's funny, Christine.
experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the modern phenomena that if you just have a YouTube channel and you start talking about what you read in a book, you're a
Yeah.
spiritual teacher now.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's important that, especially these ones that don't have any life experience and haven't had the hard knocks in life yet, to
Hmm.
really speak from experience. I wanted to make sure that they have some guidelines on how to do this
Yeah.
ethically,
That's
because
important. It really is.
the spiritual teacher world is like the rock star of
Hmm.
metaphysics, being the rock star of spirituality. And sometimes people, if they haven't worked on their ego or gotten the ego in check,
Hmm.
they can crash and burn,
Yeah.
or
And it's
make mistakes
dangerous.
that
It's
can actually
dangerous
hurt
too.
people.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
because
truly
people
is.
are putting such confidence in you and putting such trust in you. And if you don't know how, or if you take advantage of that, like,
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of men, maybe women too, take advantage sexually of people
Yeah.
who devote themselves to the spiritual teacher, and the spiritual teacher can do no wrong, and they
Hmm.
admire them. It's really important that the person who is the spiritual teacher has the integrity to be the one that says no,
Hmm.
even if someone throws themselves at
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you
even
think about that as well. I mean, there's so many, unfortunately, so many spiritual leaders that I'm sure were benevolent at one time, but we read so much about those individuals who lost themselves. And so that which should be holy or benevolent or kind or a life of servitude and leadership all of a sudden has become this evil, divisive, really unfortunate thing. So I really,
self-serving.
yeah, exactly. Self-serving. That's a really good way to say that. And I think that's the important thing is when you really look at the spirituality, the way I look at it, rather, I'll just speak about myself, is it is much more, it comes from a place of just pureness. And so with that being pure, you get to define what that means for you. But the goal is to bring light. And in that, to me, that's just something where you would have to really, really be careful about that and continually recheck
Hmm.
yourself and be aware of what is my own stuff that's coming in and how am I making sure that I deal with it and be authentic and honest about it, because even as a leader we still are growing and developing, and I think so many times people forget that a leader is still evolving. They're not at that pinnacle because we
We're
all have
still
a
here.
journey. Yeah, exactly. What would you say one of the biggest pitfalls is for a lot of leaders who do lose their way?
I would say one of the biggest pitfalls is the money.
Mm,
When they start making the money, a lot of times corruption comes in and
yeah.
it's just never enough. Even though they were so happy when they first started out that, they got $25 or something
Yeah.
for a session with
Yeah.
somebody. But then once the money starts coming, it can make a person self-important
Yes.
or self-entitled or think too much of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and it can make a person kind of a tyrant
Mm-hmm.
toward their
Mm-hmm.
the people who support them, or take advantage of the
Yeah.
people around them, and make everything about the money. That's one of
Mm-hmm.
the big things that spiritual teachers, I think, when they start out humbly and then they change later, I think that a lot of times that's what it is. I think that losing the humbleness is the biggest spiritual trap
Yeah.
of being a spiritual teacher, because you have to remember your beginnings. You have to meet people where they are, not try to get them to be where you are. You
Mm-hmm.
have to meet people where they are and remember that you were there
Yeah.
too, in that pain, in
Mm-hmm.
that depression, in that sadness. And that just because a person isn't there right now, or that just because that person is there right now and you're not, doesn't necessarily mean that you are better than anyone,
Mm-hmm.
that you're more skilled than anyone. It just means that you did your spiritual homework, and but you are equal with anyone who
Yes.
hasn't yet, because it's just a matter of time.
Hmm. Yeah, it certainly is. And we life is a cycle. We have a highs and lows. I can be at the top of my game, and the next day something can blindside me, and all of a sudden, the lesson that I thought I learned, I now get to learn it again, or I get to do a different version of that lesson to be able to say, okay, James, what works before? Okay, let me do that. And what did not work, but let me evolve that so that I can continually grow and develop. So once again, yeah, we're all the same. We all, like I said, highs and lows, but it just comes down to what do we do with it? How do we take a stumbling block and turn it into a stepping stone, and then how do we teach the individuals that are following us as well?
There's one thing I saw once where it said, if you don't learn the lesson, you get to rinse and repeat.
That's very true. I can think of many times in my life where I had to rinse and repeat. So hopefully
Right,
I'm getting
too.
beyond that. It's so funny. Well, Christine
Yeah.
Breese, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on my show today. Thank you so much for all of your time. It's awesome that you're in Ecuador right now calling me. I think that's absolutely wonderful. If my listeners want to find out more information about you, about your metaphysical sciences, about all the degrees they can take, your retreat centers, and also where they can take the free retreats, where would they find all that information online?
Well, our website's metaphysicuniversity.com for the
Perfect.
school, GaiaSagrada.com for the retreat center, and free retreats for all, with the number
Number
4.com
four.
for the free retreats.
Awesome.
And I do the free retreats wherever anybody wants me to come. You just have to invite me, and we'll, but sometimes we just pick a place and we do it too.
Oh, I
So
love
it
that.
depends on if somebody can offer us a place or something like that to stay.
That's
We try to
wonderful.
keep it inexpensive because we don't make a lot of money.
Sure, of course.
I keep all my prices so close to expenses that it's not about profit for
Exactly.
me.
Yeah.
It's about, we have to change this world or humanity might not get to stay here.
Yeah.
So
Well, I appreciate that. I love that. I love your benevolence. I love your kindness, and I love your compassion. So thank you so much for being a fantastic guest on my show today. I really do appreciate it.
thank you. Thanks for being an awesome host. You're really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad to meet you.